nyinaa wɔ mutie mu yɛsua deɛ kakra na ansa na maybe you question no na etini sɛ fango a yi na yɛ filling station yɛ kɔtɔ no depo for no ho na wɔ na cart no a yɛn yɛ tanka no akɔfa na saa nkrɔfo yɛ ɛtɔnfo yi ma yɛn na yɛ petrol ana diesel no aban adwuma mmienu na ɛhwɛ wɔn so baako ne MPA wɔn na wɔfrɛ wɔn National Petroleum Authority ɛna baako yɛ GRA ɔno nso ne tax ɔno na ɔgyegye aban ntoto na MPA ne n'adwuma ne sɛ ɔbɛ make sure sɛ tankafoɔ wɔ yi ana filling station na yɛn yɛfrɛ no wɔn a yɛfrɛ wɔn filling station no nso wɔn din ankasa ne oil marketing company for no answer na wɔbɛtɔ fuel no as I say wɔkɔ platform bi mu so na wɔkɔ katɛ wɔbɛtɔ fuel efi mu a wɔtɔn hɔ answer na wɔn aba bɛtɔn ama yɛn nti wɔn platform no so no ɛna MPA foɔ yɛ ho adwuma a yɛfrɛ no order nti ɔhɔ kɛkɛ na wɔ order a ɛno ano no sɛ obi apagya ana obi mpagya yɛ ani ne yɛ depo hɔ no na asɛmiti bi afa ngo no wɔ no ɔkɔ na nkata na asɛmiti nti no sei na bɛkyerɛ wɔ mu sɛ depo hɔ no na foɔ no wɔ but MPA foɔ no ɔno ɔhɔ na yɛfrɛ bibi sɛ purchase order wɔ nya intention sɛ ɔpɛ sɛ ɔtɔ foɔ ɔne MPA foɔ no system mu na wakɔ hɔ na wafa akɔku bi sɛ bɛbɛ sɛ mentɔ mansa na tanka no bɛfa fuel na nkata akɔ filling station no ɛsɛ ɛkɔ depo hɔ na ɛkɔfa fuel no na sɛ depo no wɔfa fuel no anaa wɔmfa fuel no a wɔngye tax GRA foɔ de ngye tax but sɛ wɔnya fa fuel no pɛ sɛ GRA foɔ nso ɛgye tax ɛsɛ GRA foɔ nso approve sɛ wɔfa fuel no ansa na wɔntumi atua tax nti sɛ wokɔ MPA system no kɛkɛ ka sɛ mepɛ sɛ meto fuel na GRA officer ankasa wafa na ba de obia ni wa obeje o tax it is say na pesa dinka wo depo no asam it GRA forty depo ho we year wo MPA for system so pefa o pesa ofa no approve na ofa ka no attract wo na obesa waje o tax wo but ye who pa na ba de tax no o tua ka na ti wo
okay enti you can say NPA NGRA omo chefa ewo neto no mu nyina no en de wo hefa
okay
enti pacho ya na wa ma oneso kakra ka ho ama me
yo nothing pacho se ya kakra
there be o still I wa chiri kakra
oti me nka ye
ai afa na me to nka ye
okay all right me atini say depo ho no say uko fafu no fi opa ya ma we bi e friend we bill na saa we bill no na etre say wafa fuel no enye order wo ye wo system no e na etre say wafa fuel no na minim say obemama kan SML asem no kakra na ma cheche mu kakra so obebisa me question echi a minim say na obe no but so na me patch say uko depo ho na uko fa fuel na e ye ma we bill tre say why dey wafa fuel na fuel no so one pump fi machine mu na no so cheche say wafa fuel na emu tretrebu pan se apan idwumakuo mienu we MPA any GRA fuel ni be go tankers ni mu pe a wotonton no obie ni ho a obehu se fuel dudu we e dey fi mu dem tina me say obie ni ho obehu se dudu a fuel ni fi mu MPA ni meter GRA any meter. I better say, depo we a pump for do say, ama tanka we MPA ni meter, GRA su ni meter. Na saying na some kofu we na be who say, do say, and I go out. And GRA for say, there be no problem kakra. Na sa problem ye you know. You back up company bia oba be meter eba koto tankers depots no na se fuel bia fimu a bia amatin sem bi se obi se MPA tuma wo ye na no ebi so na GRA ye emu chichemu ni se Young funny say, up electricity will fee. Taking any more Ghana has a up electricity, so called ECG now called meter. Now, what electricity, what to meter? And now the other boho. Now, Busumi be a war drama by say, do say, power do say, the may use into no about of a ECG BBTR. Sapepepepe and netting. Tama SML in your. Ono MP, ono GRA, tama SML in your. Or person who for do a FC depot biana. Or call a could said depots no. Depot no see will be private business. So depot no will be this. Ono so sound OMC. Inti nipa na ono person onya ne edwuma so mfaso no ni ho na akoda bisa de say do say the way you film na ono ankata stand ko to kutiaka minka so bi be pokro no but o hwe ni say ya min obroni be ka say controls na wo no na enough inti MPA GRE 3SML obie ni ho a o meter ebe pim ne GRE for kwa wo meter no SML 4 meter. Na maybe she should mama say, meter no grandpa, GR4 meter was here one diano. When you one city, SML the two of the PS and two of tax scam. Into no, of has some and no.
I see. NT GRA any NPA. Na omunim say, ohwehwemu na oye no omunim say SML eye adwuma e de ma omo.
Manasi adwuma no ye no meti openi Mustafa Hamid say company no afianse no babe fra wo no no so bisa won say because oni wo eye me na kakra because me hu let be lette anan ko ebu benim sisi a e bi dia messenger ma wo NPA boss no wo ko aye friend no Alasanta Poli ni SML fo edita ho ama wajia tu mbwaya SML beboa wo Mustafa Hamid nso me hu say lette mienu wo benim ha ono so asensan afre SML fo say won beboa na won ma aban score the FIFA goal no enkosoro nti na meeting ni interview no wo documentary mu no eje me na kakra na as say yam frame Manasi Azuri na ono so on who say let be say wo na chi so wa say bia wo bi say Mustafa Hamid na tini wo nyama yi na mu ni say menhu GR for so bibia ya friend need assessment wo friend and say business case nti a wo the SML buy wo EY report be any one legal unit at the peer what the OMC for court say what buying what they are buying car. Now here dance na what they are buying car na didn't be a copy 300 million, 400 million, 500 million. Company baku they are buying car 800 million Ghana cedis. Mpacho enye titiska o. Eye neska ene Ghana cedis 800 million. Na company bako this akana ye den no koso this akana one twem and say ofafa ngona ontiaka data na efi MP ho order no enko GCnet system no sa type no inti say enko na echi okofra auditors by 2 years ba no obey auditor no hu say obitika dudu osi nke so tia ubeye na company do egani ebinum so court no mo bisa ne say ufa o say manfa na court so bisa GRA say akwai say wanfa eye den na unim say wafa anaso fire akwa ne so say OMC no so say we bill pen na betre say wafa fu no wo be konso a we bill no so nyede eniwo eheboto so sia me hu say SML egusu we bill scanning what the machines binom ni ade e making sure say answer na tank bia be fi depo hono wo fosa nyamani na e for PO ina e ko icom sunu custom for system na buku tax nu e making sure say bia ye pepe inti enne obi be din trokra say wan for fuel na bind the no court Ghana na SML pen the bit much I say. Krata oh science anyway so science say what for fun go SML pen you know as I say we should be because at the SML be copy obi beti mako court say one for fun go bia na o ka so kwa hwehwe we bill na we bill no unya wo MPA we bill no various depots e she bottom o kona say we bill na yela nipa na fa di nwedi nti no minim nipa ko a ohwehwe mpese SML fo be ye nweduma nti ese say kana fo nyina ni sa questions ni ye why name pe SML so be ye na ni mbisemu because EY report ekwa kire say fangwa ye de ball man yamfa ni tani na 100 liters a ni NPA so ehu se ho aton dani 70 eswati bu ni e be kwa ban ho GRA so no so nji to wo so adani 40 inti sakranta we na wo GRA for ho ama EY report so wo ho ansa na SML beba eno mo ka kire SML se munye se adwuma we inti se Ghana for ina bisa se SML buy no say na kosi mi de bi me hu data no say SML buy or your pilot be 2020 no sa gap no we close no but me de mi na han kata ansam no as say on a work matter and decide the right question ni na ye ko fa krata ni nhwehwegu na pepepe wo no yanka ni na ko ka so bi akoye djuma body.
I see. Say the ama asem ye di ho nkomo bie ene say SML adwuma no a oye no they say ya twa sensen ya say KPMG for enye auditing e wo ho ya ma na otwimi no aso ama ma kwa kosre extension ya de ama wo mo obra ye san hwemu yi ya say SML for onye adwuma opem say KPMG ba ye adwuma no a odina no disem beba betudwa me kansem yenu abom no mabisa no ba ko say de di kan ene say de wo chirechire mu yi te saa nete a ene ye sabre ya SML for no every ho no ye be de atimi abusa nkonta no fine sene a usika no ena obi a wo nim de wo sa adwuma we sei mu no woti say ya se SML for no nya ya adwuma kopem se ye be nhwemu awie no let us say
ade de obi beka say adani free day ama business people menka say obi aye body bi aye fani say me will be this me was depot me ami san will be this and me ami san will filling station e friend OMC say SML for ni ho a currently ne atene say me hu say SML for do won adwuma no wa boss nsan de ba wo machines bia wo de abo pipes ni na wo depot bia wo Ghana ha into me investigation criteria me say no busu ye adwuma but adie bako a won nye ya won hu nyama ni yie and they say because say when you want fit depo what see an you know we build scanning technology na we use no want me hu filling station ana OMC kwa e be fa no but currently we betimi hu say do say na fi depots na intini say bia o chinebi auditors ni we no was SML from who so eduma mo ya no de bo man one bra back bioma ani de SML for say won ko fa we bills ni na scan bio na won ye reconciliation ko GRA system no make sure say ni obi afa bia na ye go kra pepepe and this idea me make say a free day for the business people in the industry. But the SML bit my and say, so far as only the real time reading there, or the better ho, na se backlogs no bar, na buying clear no, and then the CD and the backlogs bar, GR ni SML, bit my who way bills me na no one reconciliation. And yes, idea na media me family who here there, but the business people have a free day.
Okay. Meaning so we mu na oye no so no. Se wo hwe se SML adwuma no a oye no. Obi ma no contract en oye. Ana ono an de ne pe. Ena wode ne meter akwa akobbo mfidie no na o take stock ne ade a me pese me hu se o hwehwe mu no okọ ho nso so.
Sana oyi medi maye audit wo petroleum downstream for more than 10 years. And I'm saying, trading petroleum products. Na Ghana ha, uyo mampeni na kufuado kwa na mampeni bia na untimi kote kupia jise MPA for na okrata. And ninti na mise mo okrata bi kumedi mu ha, eye MPA for ama SML for okrata, GRE ama SML for okrata. Your friend be say ISO standard because ultimate petroleum depots for media to work again. Or whom yama boy a thing investments in a high cost sana before the canon. In Tian Sana open mouth coins obey be no one bed JB and beto products move and now also have up. As a say international standard, ISO standard, we're making sure that was certified high caliber of people and the mouth coin. Send your money now, SML4 program who MPA4 letter. One GRE4. I hear what we call stakeholders engagement. That clearance in a crap many. And you know, only the SML4 the minimum the Papua Waya will make me a boy hockey. 777. Nana Kufa to correct to be bold depot. This MPA4 man who buy. MPA4 man who buy to be called depot. Into so because MPA4 so would him SML. The one crack and go many man. And they contumpo abuse and independent cancer.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Now, if we say SML Juma buy, the mama flow to ni say where the say way be that. Why yes, Juma our industry mutu ni mwasem. The street language you want say oh SML for me akrom for. Omo nye Juma mo ye credible. Ye do maba no mo wi Ghana. SML to onye Juma bi afi bi obenya 100 million USD. Me say what it be? What is answer way no na it is saying?
Me pacha you're afraid to be say half knowledge is a dangerous knowledge. Contracts are mainly who are making more than 40 pages contracts. Now, if for one page per now one kind other complementary or complementary terms and kayan kamwa. Make a pan say 1 shilling a year, no one could go tumpu. Who contract no? Contract purely based on performance base. And me say GRF for the one co when they say do how the paper can ya ye wo fun data. Nti broni Fred be benchmark was set benchmark ma. Say one for bi anka ho a waboka. And then now the part industry no smith me tuahwe wa investment na so. Nti na nia wo de beka ho no. And then I remember I was going to be genetic as a SML 100 million and no way depending in New York because I'm saying SML special to manage no need to do about the benchmark. It's in the same way now a contract in the move but the Pakuna fact side no and work for one side. And all the other I say disinformation. So person of my information you know for the body, only because disinformation. Into media anybody else because we don't possible auditors no go see work man. The short auditors no be who say nyama we nana no cry wo no aba magana fu ne who say enye say wo pija fact of oil na pena SM fonya wo risk based reward purely performance. So when you man ko pim pempensu bi ambro ne wo hodida no so na we nyamfa ama on ya ban or no 0.05. Okay, but you can do 1%, half of 1%. You know, so Abaya 21st. No, but make sure Abaya 40. No, but it's that 20 extra. On your buying check or no crap more than 99.5%. No, alpha 0.5%. Into a broad profit. Sika uni SML contract and sign today. Who needs the way to be next week? Now, my coffee bro, because for bro, yeah, for 99.5%. Now, my 5.05%. Why then pay that contract week? You know, I'm saying, can afford no, I just can't afford the party be over. Sunday, any amano. You book at the young Kaidina, the Antias and Sunday, the Ababot.
Okay.
If you are there, Pacho, we know from Manas Yazoo. I'm bisa the questions here makaina yensha ni yo no so de baba.
All right. Okay. Enti say ye ma sima baako anamienu abro so ase to Ghana abanfo efasa SML NPA GRA ene depot oil no ho asem a wo futu be sen
That thing say me de me nya be that say me tufu mo but me bisa questions be bro ni be ka say questions be na sa questions na maybe bisa no say wonya wo anu yi a na won fa danie futu because currently audit koso the question back on say aban ko hwehwe mu say depots BDCs OMCs ye wo depots ni bia no all the BDC and all the also the OMC and then the question back na say e no kwesa na ni pa no betimi edika bia aban etin say na say oyi SML fi wa obetimi edika bia aban di hu aban de lose tax ana and then me question back. Question number 2. Ghana for ni aban na yen bisa ya hu say MPA ni DRA wo shares downstream petroleum no so obi wo bita na ana say eye SML meter na wo betima rely on nti se wo mienu GRA any BD GRA any MPA obi any meter won fa wo madwi na to so miensa say MPA no ye regulator and now say I see my sister of a sort of fuel free way home. Now say I see my sister man to fuel no and I see my sister what talk now I bind me on the taxa. Here for the woman evidence. Now evidence no in this current state say SML Niwa can they go to court? If they can go to court, why is the previous court case not resolved? Finally, the American said SML buyer in so saying and are buying over the benchmark was setting my SML. So some fast one so we SML fewer at the call and as enco. It's here no but ye na yan train and audit in the basic Ghana for digging young bisa the right question. Now buying and finding names people. And yes, journalism, if you were 7. Na me nua manasi adwuma oye mi hwehwe nyama ni mi do anya adwuma pa nti mpamokyɛw asama me ne mo akan nei me yɛ sure so no so beti PCFM de kwa achi na no so ntie o wanu ye bia onfam bra na Ghana fo yi na ntie media houses nso carry way no wo bisa ne say asimasi na say na atibo ya waka nti ono so na adwe wo mu ne sen na ono atibo ya wo say o MPA letters and all GRA letters, excess SML is my way, a year to my pap. No, no, and then ye said, signing a couple of with us.
of ativo yadase anope
Yeah, Mr.
yo let's just say en commona e ho no eno so na ye ne opani ativo ya edie Kokrokoo no aso egusu a utie ena no pay Ghana Statistical Service say yamfa to monim say onu ma hye bi ase na a field data collection for 2024 Ghana Integrated Business Establishment Survey Phase 1. That is IBES Phase 1. All business units found in the confines of Ghana will be enumerated. The goal of IBES Phase 1 is to compile a detailed list of businesses capturing their essential firm characteristics that contributes to the development of a robust statistical business register and other key statistical indicators to enhance national development. All business entities that actively conduct business activities as part of Ghana's economy, irrespective of status and size, will be irrespective of status and size, be it for profit or non-for-profit, large or small, in towns or villages, physical locations or online, markets, shops, offices, or within residential facilities, and all other locations qualified to be enumerated. The general public is being urged to cooperate with the IBES officials to ensure active participation and successful implementation of the important national exercise. Enti Ghana Statistical Service say yɛmfa ntom anim sɛ wɔnom ɛyɛ dwumade bi a wato din sɛ Business Establishment Survey Phase 1. Enti sɛ wɔnom akrakyefo ne wurabafoɔ no ba ɛanam abie kwan ɛde ama wɔn na wɔatumi ɛde dwuma no sɛnea ɛsɛ ɛfata. Adik Magye.
Me just so now.
Oh, nyanko pardon. Now so eh.
Me adum.
If the radio say. Dr. Ochrankra.
David boy, Yamisha.
Amen. Pato be akasa munu kakra ma me.
Nyame ma wani nyam.
Amen.
Ontutu anamon si.
Amen.
Na oma ni nya so mfa so.
Medase.
Da chi bi oni ho a ya bo yin aka se na na ya nso ni obeye ye ni.
Medase.
E hire nyampa ne ahoden ma.
Amen. Medase. Yami ishta. Prof.
Yes sir.
Prof Pajo Machi.
Yajo. Oyena.
Apom.
Wa hwa.
Apom di enkeye.
I say sika standard no will be correct to.
Who will be crying today?
Who will be correct to be?
Talk around for Zuri. So, you, Penny Madam Marciano Pay said, Monya, your home adaje.
When I your birthday.
And Ra.
Oh, okay. Yamisha.
Amen, Prof.
Yamisha.
Medase pa, Madam Marci, Penny Prof, Niamana, a good plate no son. I say watching. Gary Kakra womb, Talia Kakra womb, Beans Kakra womb, and more Kakra womb, BBA womb. Now, I take it the SML GR no a nomination I see the home come out last week. Now, my friend anymore, one of a person now what the beginner. AFCON, Dr. Ankra the Bubu Funti, I had my man. One shall be Jana or better to Tradewa. They are tossing me and son. I am a Makuma Swadi Pane, a Fia Banwa, Yabetua, Ebesi Memenda. I can see any who buno. Easy, this is Yaquaco, and my iPad for say. Monshe Nankasadi, Yansesano, na Yemfa Bato Danamra November, Nafi Danos so. Yansesan, Enfamra, David Benada, ye Dikain, Ewa November Busuminum. And this Yamanukono de Cataba Bontre, I can pain say. One more dear, or more for us to say a few way. Your best Sandano. A few way the other day, in December 7th, Honwa. Name your best Sanokra, Enfanco 2028. Na enye a fee. Padaruma, it drew so baby episode one more digina biano. Mamma home quine. Na Atik. And I'm Pessamino if you are Papa.
Said never gas me between her at your
Mirefi.
Oh, my enemy,
Prof Mirefi. O Cramino, a fence and Comobiso. Prof Mirefi.
Take his watch.
Who I take his watch. Prof, any
Prof, enemy, Prof.
Prof, Brekunam, one okay, I would do the shoulder. And the Prof. And come on a good pronosono. Mamma, maybe I'll say. I got your chili.
Baby said, AFCON near Mano. Senka Dankwakuya Boa, our ha. If we bear 2010, and I can say, young Brasta. Oh, yes. Oh, beside Bacancho. Because Yakobia, a some of whom say, as so many players and one, as some more management. Now, Osha Sikaya, a deco, a Fibia. Number nine, we say, I say, your mom, Obia said $30,000. Yes. Sana make them tear. Nana, I don't know to me actually. Now, say $30,000. Nana, yes, I know. So, yeah, they mobia.
Nyame amwayen and I'm going to qualify to the next stage and Kubia Beji.
Kubia be na 30,000.
30,000. Kusu.
Obia.
Back Obia. Kusu.
Now we are anye yenti ye ja kwan so mo kokeke.
There be beja appearance fee no. Say omo ko no budget no omo de ba no. E bi sa mo kire yesika do omo de ko omo se there be just omo ko ba. Okay. Enso hwehwe mu no. Tournament no win ya. Ukoenya na otie na oje cup no a ubenya $7 million. And na yen budget no a de ko eno so 8.4. Yen 4.
That is in Kay Diabos.
Ya boka yen embo ball crowd ya boka $1.4 million.
Ghana ha nya ball nkwa na ebibia. Yen nyina te ase se ball no de nka bom so nko ba. Mfa ho no bia party ye ba 2006 na yɛkɔ World Cup.
Germany.
Oh, share that time no obi akai Ghana flag bɔ ho na ebi hu ebinom ayɛ no say Franka no bi hyehyɛ mu. Aboa say yɛhunu say o. Na mom apanifo say enwan yɛ kɔ ada ha yie no ɔmo mbaaya a enke nka foforo mu. Yakɔ 2006 efiro yankɔ AFCON na ye try ye ne akɔ World Cup. Ne ebisa say de be pa na efiri mu aba. We see as omo bo wie na obi na ne plane e wo hwa atwen no. And anybody no boss say no na go bi o ma ye hwe no. E kire o ba bi no. Eti na na yo me pa de say kane no ye susua no no mo academicals omo no e hyase bobo
the real Republicans in the
institutions ni nyina na wo ho no na inter schools ekoyie ti ye wo training college na wo nkransa atebubu mampon as a triangular na ye bobo na enai premier ne ho ahwan no ball na senior senior sasabonsam num da chire pa no o ye ne nsase ya
senior hwan
sasabonsam ne friend in Tori Danko na ni pa kure obo defense na eba hockey so a on na dago and sankofo no ball a omo ball ye no ene omo so me professionals na dey back am as ye kase obi ye professional anase or a professor e say djuma na wasua ni ye pa sa odakora na opusu no a obetumi abetirichim kofo ya ombe na from professionals no ana ya ombe dru ha no mde omo professionalism no mde aton nchai was bo bi o ho a omo ba trimude no bi trimu ya ndade ase amfa no nkokon te yakosesa omo ba na bo bi o ha aha ne hey nyamen cha de ya din tire kakra 70s num ho ye hwe ball poku afri enu mani so ni ayi akọwe golden boy Abdul Razak or shebo bi na Ghanaian Times caption say golden boy with a golden goal na ya odo mo toto anim ho a anya hwe kra ya sa hwe Senegal 92 ya call penalties chasa mankwa no nyasa Franka mankwa ene
bayereba
beye
ya hwe ball enti say so omo bo we pa na se we nu na professionals media menya yemfa ya ni hwase ho yie under 17 under 20 21 so meboa on say the day
you was 17 20 23
the day no frase ho e no mo koje cap no bae na one ajiman bedun ye do mo ba national team but say asase ho no mom no enkoye papa e na diska ni nyina akɔhye blaster mo ti ka yengu blaster no na yemfa ya ni nkwase ho na yem build the team efri nkwaram coach kakra sa cornerstone uda hwe bia no mbobo akwawie so kra abuom no mbo ba corners team no mema no omuwo mu a ebinom te alaba ene asoase ene aboabo no utum so omo ekum omo ho abobo na nefu edie yamfa ntrenche na yaw yam kwase ho na yamma yen schools nso the amma schools de no so enkoyie no eye system na yesesa no every O level eba SHS ne nkeka ho kane na nkofo form 5 na extracurricular to say drama e wo school omanfo de omani ko debate so na sports in general so yade eni akran ko 2.5 years it not during nyina wo exams no so
na pani se brenenso
and 3 years but o try e be 2.5 it is akran no can say onko kum no ho mfa no nko hye athletics ana football no am papa kra bitu no fo tisanke ye school en hye no eya a ebrewo mu e man kra no enya kwan e de sa ne ma no eka omunwie no na yehunu omo a nyame e de abọ omo se omo de sports no na bobo no na ka ye koyenim but de ti hu pa de afcon we yakwe de baba bio no e be say 20
next year 2025 say we no na nka se no last year and the next one near Morocco 2025
ye ko bi
e nyambo e qualifiers no
about ye
ye babo bi
ye babo qualifiers
ye babo qualifiers ne bi
ye de ska be kwa qualifiers
what ye babo
ya na yem hyehyɛ Ghana ball o pese o hwe pa me yoda o ma ba wie na wa hu resource no en dia yem hyehyɛ bi adim na de kwai de coach bi ade no beba bia sa trimude no de beba de be ya na be ye na coach no so me kan bibi if e wo mze Ghanaian Times no graphic o hwe se o hwe Afcon no bo madie no ebi wo ho a eye Africans ena na eye coach ena o mogye ena bi wo ho a eye abrofo South Africans to me gye de me nko ade nkemfa ya adwene nko abi before na o mankasa e hwe ye team no so amaye was ye de abrofo ya bagana bebre ebi ansi aga say 1982 na gye ye enti 42 years mfe aduana mienu ni abrofo say na emfa o momaye abrofo na edom ban ye koduru henefa ya fa before nso ye koduru henefa enti sa o hwemu a coach no hu hia de na coach beye den na nipa na ogina park no soro okoto ne nan na adwene nso opra okoni team mu a onya bi mo sese a sa na beye na ye nhwe ye local teams no so na ne minu anom wa munim se ye kotoko ne ye house no nya no na wo ho sese bia ye students need to be free ha ekokuma se ko hwe ball esaba na kotoko ye kotoko house ball utim se house ball Olympics e ball RTU a ye nim no nya no na wo ho sese enti se ye hwe na ya build ye teams na wase no ya
hey tetu Caladan Park
yes
over that ko charity o Caladan Park
a baby buyer na blaster no obenya local players yakobedu
openi me nkyere wa akiri Cecil Jones atoko efi onya me fa ne crazy ye ne almighty Nigeria starting 11 and has of folk players 10
enei
omantima hye
ya de ni pa kokora ya momu nya bi mo we ye omkoye say ebinum ko tran bench wa mo bi kra it is a share local teams ni ya ebebo ama yanya omo amoma bon na yenya trimude wa afo na wo do mba omu hu de omo ye no ma me fancy ya
prof
yes sir
I mean shiraw ya da si nya say da bi yank ye pe
adik
Prof.
me je kira man the time no to me fabi
Martin, prof.
me say utumi o ezo suna da utumi fabi
and is offer
ana fabi o ana fani nyina so ana mfa wonsa nka
Prof.
okay prof ya da si nya bi shiraw emta 40 say e kan no prof o dwumadi sonko bi da nanim anopai nanso yehodo nti wanya ebre no kakra e de afemi yen prof ibenya wu pa sama ga jo so nanke se cry be adwuma prof nyame nshira pa ye do ase nyame nshira Atik Mohammed
Nana ya okesi
aluta continua
Victoria Aseta
me ba cho yengwe
me la si ni di kan amincha gamaga fo nyina ene anopi na mincha yeti fo ni ahwefo nyina na mincha prof so me hu prof a chekakra ena doc de mine na to de bia na we na to de bia na we yimi ama but ya miti ase na me de me pese meka SM ho asem na esan say oh yes esan say fa revenue ho asem and revenue de ya dia ehia kesipa emayi nyina na media em say last 2 weeks and last week ra enya kwan eka nsem ni bi kakri bi and media to de bi ansemba say nyina enya abutre na yen hwehwem. There are some issues when you are not privy to the information. It will be unhelpful to just start commentary on them. Ebe hia say obeto obo yen hwehwem na the relevant facts are ewo mu no na wa hwehwe so that when you are speaking to the issue, I wouldn't near wuka. Media, I posed some questions, and I think that those questions would guide a conversation. No? And last week's Mika Assembly said revenue assurance monitoring is very key to enhancing our tax effort as on mine. Because say sikana aye jijino na tuo na aye jijino en shada koni nimsa ebe hia say yebe yen hwehwemehu edie nti na sikana ana tuo na aye jino yentimi nji enru bibia ese jino. Sometimes the first is tax avoidance, your tax evasion, and obviously we in some cases inadequate tax basis nyema na obetimi di to eto hono and shadan also, so you have very limited tax regimes, and sometimes so leakages in the process of collection. People are not avoiding tax, they maybe not evading, and you have the requisite tax regimes are but no collection na yen shadam boy humodin. So you always need to have a monitoring mechanism in place to assure you of the fact that it is in that context that maybe say ansana GRA, that is the body given the mandate to do revenue collection in this country. Ombeka say ye obiama na be ye juma biama ya. As I said, they should have a need for such juma. You can't just get up and say yeah GRA inti ye pese di juma bi ma obi without a basis. Otherwise emfa na ansana obetimi aka che ho say ejuma we die me hia a third party to do. So we are there friend needs assessment. You ntimi sorry prekope enka say we die me nya ya nka medima a third party and an independent or private entity amanaya and kebeboame yen kanisa, it has to be founded on something. Nti omu needs assessment on omu revenue collection in the downstream, especially the special petroleum tax, no. And I've made this point before, and I think it bears repeating. Say, when the first time GRA4 ehun say twa ye every particular sector mono and shadan call the way I say kono nti ye behia obi a obetimi aboa yen to monitor yen revenues say ye free sector mono. And I cited the example of communication service tax and the VAT on communication. Who say, look, we are sitting ducks. Essence omun nimne ekosu, and they relied only on the declarations by telcos to do the calculation of how much eso omunya by way of communication service tax and then VAT. Esana the earlier point I make here about people maybe not avoiding tax, not evading, but ABI in your collection stream, there are some gaps you are not addressing. Until Ebas they realize that they are unable to tell in real time the call traffic, the volume of calls a month for any the number of minutes a month for air calls. No more they are calculating or more until they needed to contract a third party to do that for them. It is in the same manner. Until GRA ehu no man shas ye preocupa say yeah the ejuma ni mo bi they did a needs assessment. And then when you read the GRA's GRA Petroleum Downstream Need Assessment, which was conducted in 2020, I am telling you, when you read it, because GRA was losing millions of cedis by way of revenue. They initially contracted a consultant to do a different stock reconciliation, petroleum stock management reconciliation. They realized that there were discrepancies between volumes of petroleum reported by OMCs, volumes of petroleum traded, and volumes of petroleum reported by MPA. And these discrepancies meant loss of revenue. What is here? And let me just give you some of the Omo findings are omunyae. I'm just move straight to the findings. For example, when it came to omo findings, no, the GRE Petroleum Stock Reconciliation Report Nami Kayama with you. They found, and it was the consultant was EY. They found, say, for example,
okay,
gas oil.
You are Enza Young.
Yes.
Okay.
Ushe omo gas oil, as was reported by MPA, in liters. Now it's 6 billion. The number is huge. Let me just, I'll just round it up. 6.8 billion. That was in liters. That was the volumes MPA report here. GRE reports are almost ne ekitomo was 6.2. Until ignoring the other additional specific figures are ADH no. I'm just rounding it up. The first was 6.8 and that was MPA volumes no. GRE volumes no was 6.3 if I'm rounding it up. And that of the depots no so reporting was 6 billion. And to show there were discrepancies. And these discrepancies meant say GRE was losing revenue. Into a total of 11.789 million, which is 11,789 million liters of gas oil relating to OMCs, was also found to be overstated. And exempt products be or they exempt from such special petroleum tax, some of them were not properly accounted for. There were inconsistencies in the unit of measuring petroleum transactions and improper record keeping. If you have improper records, how do you expect the GRE to be able to calculate the proper tax revenue as well calculate? And when you now were concerns that led, to GRE saying we need to have a needs assessment. And they contracted the consultant to do this and nearby any. And Ushaswa, some of the depots, they were unable to furnish the consultants with complete information. When it came to look at the and I'll just mention some of the depots. Omoantiman furnish consultant with the relevant information. And the sales volumes by some of these depots between 2016 and 2018 they couldn't provide. And some of them included the only one in fact not the only one, the only ones that were able to provide complete information were Tema Tank Farm and Tema Oil Refinery and Ceros Oil Takrady one say a friend Zen Energy. These were the only three Omotim providing complete information. And Ceros Oil Tema, they couldn't give between 2016 and 2018 import volumes or they couldn't give complete information. Sahara Oil, they gave incomplete information. Even Bost couldn't give complete information. And GRA relies on complete information to calculate their revenue. Revenue is not calculated on approximations. A, B, A, C. There be specific volumes now and more musicano. And if you don't give them complete information on the volumes, whether imported volumes or traded volumes, they are unable to calculate revenue. And to when you know the look, we need obi timi abuaye so that we are able to deal with some of these under declarations, the inconsistencies, and so on and so forth. And Ekofa SML buy. Somebody would say, why isn't GRA doing it? GRA is not equipped to do everything. Revenue collection is a big deal. And Juma Eda Forms is a big deal. And the GRA Ankasa assessi or mustensa and who said when it comes to revenue assurance monitoring the downstream, we would need a third party with some technical expertise to do that. And yeah, Bonnie, and like I said, they've done it before. And the Kofa Super Info Solutions, ignore the fact that Info Solutions didn't discharge themselves creditably. But that need existed, and there was that agency to contract a third party and a private entity. Mika Enusano, it says CSA, Ministry of Finance, of course, GRA is under the Ministry of Finance. Omusu Ejitu Muse, Juma SML Bayano, Ebebuao. And MPA so has agreed. Until when I hear people say, MPA was not even in the known. I have cited letters and a correspondence between MPA and GRA and then the entity and the service provider. HSA, MPA was fully in the known. They contributed significantly. They even helped in forming operational teams ombeboa in the workings of service provider. And this obviously on nim near you can say SML4 year their name kakra, because some of the names, and this is not just specific to one, you can say like this is not specific to the AC under one particular CEO. AC under Ura Tampuli and Miami Nuya Sheikh Mustafa Su Napensu. There are such conversations, and as recent as October 2023, they set up an operational team. Now MP4 Kahon, GRE4 Kahon, any the service provider. Enti Juma Omu yeno look, nobody can do anything in the downstream without the explicit support and recognition by the regulator. Enti min ye. Now it beats my imagination. Say Obi Beka say somebody and an entity just would go to the depots, because the depots work under MPA. They are part of the entities that the MPA regulates. Won't mean sorry in depot honum without the blessing of MPA. Say ukoye bibi woho. Whether you are going to place a gauge tank and now you are going to place a meter, whatever it is, won't mean koye because who needs to me no. You would require the blessing of you can say the regulator to be able to do that. And to Obi Obeka said MPA has been unaware of near the service provider ISMLA me and I have cited correspondences between and amongst these three entities, GRA, MPA, and then the service provider. HSA, they are working together. But another issue, I've always made this point, when it comes to public investments and our public contracting, what we should always strive for is value for money in all your transactions involving private entities or any other entity for that matter. And the other question I may be saying is, sir, engagement GRE ni SML4 away, does it give Ghana value for money? Because my teachings say, oh, Nankrofo, they just set this up in order to fleece the country, or more GCK and not getting any work done. But this is a service, this is a performance-based contract. And they are paid based on what they offer. Offer, you can say, omu needs assessment report now. Ne omu chere say, for, you can say, the service provider to be paid, it has to be performance-based. And I read, when you go to recommendations, omu yes, petroleum downstream need assessment, recommendations by the consultant, included, and when you go to recommendation C, this is a GRE document. You see, anything American, so see, Ghana, ya manu will be with passed right to information act, and to pay information, it is easy to access some of these pieces of information. And to now, if you are able to get the needs assessment reports now, GRE4 a year, and you go to recommendations. Recommendation C tells you how whichever entity is going to be contracted will be paid. It is performance based. And let me read verbatim to you, any outsourcing of works, and the heading is, or the subheading is performance based contracting. Any outsourcing of works required to bridge the existing gap to any consultant should totally be aimed at value for money, which is where my interest is. Because Ankasa contractee didn't give Ghana value for money. I would be the first to shout, say, look, let's terminate this.
They did.
Of course, Mika, and because the contract is fashioned in such a way, say, you have no room to maneuver. You can't wiggle your way out of this arrangement to give us value for money, because the contract is structured in such a way, say, answer na ebe tuya ukano. You should be able to tell, say, ebia imported volumes nini, traded volumes nini. Now, the difference between traded volumes, as declared to GRE4, no, are less than imported volumes, no. And the difference are mutimi etraki, no. That is what you are entitled to. You are paid based on that difference now, mutimi enya, no. And yes, all petroleum volumes are imported and I reporting my GRE. You are entitled to some money on those. Near mutimi traki, and may who say between near yedi bread GRE, no, any near ne essay yedi bread mono. Eina edemuno, difference na ewo mu no through your monitoring na odi hu ye no, that is what you get paid on. What has here? And at the end of the day, GRA is not paying you on what you have not worked on. And that for me is enough value for money. And so na esika omuji na omudi nfala. The needs assessment itself no tells GRA for say. And say ye di adwuma no ma any consultant. Na ye betua nka, let the person be paid based on juma or yet to help GRA. So if the person is doing the revenue assurance monitoring and Jumano has yielded some dividends, the person gets paid on those gains. Why Yama GRA? And it is the logical thing to do. Obia Obe investis Kapudo to do revenue assurance. And I thought that this was even an improvement over what you can say GRA did with Suba. Unlike Suba, when you are paid based on what you are able to discover. Suba was entitled to some ridiculous 75 million B, whether they were able to do Jumana GRA for the or not. Because the contract required them to connect their nodes to the infrastructure of the telcos. So that in real time, when you catch GRA say, Ghana phone kasa in this particular, at this particular hour, in this particular minute, Ghana for do or mukasa wasono. This is the number of minutes a Ghana for a number of people or mukasa waso. Oma nyanisa, yet they were getting paid. But when they get paid based on what they are able to discover. And for me, that is enough value for money for any such transaction. The other issue is beyond the petroleum downstream, Ministry of Finance. Look, there are other revenue areas we might have similar problems. And somebody working in sustainable development, I've always made the point say, look, we are not getting as much as we should from our minerals. It's a clear, this is beyond debate, it's beyond contest. And it's a Ministry of Finance, the body responsible for fiscal policy. Look, we could maximize and increase your revenue from minerals if we are able to get the right volumes recorded and reported to us. I say amount for ATS, some of these taxes are contractee SML to work on are taxes that are volumes driven. They are calculated based on volumes. And the royalty are free your minerals. It is volume driven. As I said, how much ounces of gold and how many ounces of gold a particular mining firm reports, and they determine how much revenue they calculate. And revenue is simply when you take the volume, which is the quantity, then you multiply it by the price. That gives you your revenue. So royalty is not calculated on profits, it's calculated on revenue. And that depends on the quantity our produce. And if I say a mining firm produces 100 ounces of gold and 100 kilograms of gold. Now Abeka GRA say we produce only 20. Government is never going to get revenue on the 80, What I say? And the Ministry of Finance Eka said, look, given a Juma Omaye in the petroleum downstream, maybe there is a need for them to do some further work in the mining sector, which I agree with anyways. Because Bibia a volume driven revenue that is based on volumes there, you must always have that assurance in place to be sure that you are not shortchanged. There are no under declarations. Until now, Omuka said, look, if we extend their contract to this Ebebwa, and me know what doing, because sometimes we complain about low receipts from minerals, not because I disagree. I don't like the idea say we are getting only 5% from our minerals by way of royalty, but sometimes it's not just the 5% in a problem, no. But the quantities that are reported no so a problem. And this we want to assure ourselves we are getting the right quantities reported to us. Me who bonia a womb. And in the same manner, we go upstream now and also volumes. Sometimes there's a discrepancy between what is produced and what is stored. And Mika, what is stored, I'm talking about the reports that are given. So you go to the time fields, for example. A particular oil company for I mean, let me just way is just hypothetical. I mean, can say Talo and other mining other exploration company crowd in saying the other one Cosmos and Springfield impo. I mean, can say that's what they do, but sometimes you produce volumes of barrels of crude between the point of production and storage. You know, there is they work independently. The storage facility is independent of the production point. You know, and there is no real-time connection between the two to know say na you produce and one na you call storage facility honum no. What is here? And at the end of the day, it is the near our storage facilities no Nigeria di. But what if between production and storage, you know, Sebi, something happens and an in storage. Okay, we always have concerns and we've always heard stories about Nkrofo Muton stolen crude on the high seas. So usually the ones stolen, you know, are the ones that are not declared and are sent to the storage facilities, you know. And if government says upstream honum, no, we have no way of telling, say what is produced is what is actually in storage. Yempe a mechanism to deal with that. Because look, government is all about maximizing, you know, government's revenue.
The government
it is all about maximizing government's revenue. And to coin be a Ministry of Finance, any agency, GRA, every first to maximize our tax revenue. No? That is what we should be encouraging. And a bar revenue, we are always quick to say our GRA. They set timid targets so they overmeet them. Until they don't set ambitious targets. Almost 30 targets are because they failed in doing collection. But if we are talking about optimal collection of revenue, almost they hear some assurances to make sure that efforts are complementary and are complemented. And it's almost the same mechanism but to make sure that near eso munya no so that they can set higher and ambitious targets. Me dream wa mentiasia.
Enti onti asie nyina no obesi ni sen ne krakra ni sen.
No krakra ni say yengoti a upstream honum no. You see organization BC there are no leakages in the upstream. Sebi. Unye research bi a ekire say there are no leakages. Or bonitrimu or you see it is what the oil companies will tell you.
And even if we're hypothetical, even if there are no leakages today, do we take that until eternity there will not be any leakage?
That's even another point. But the question I'm asking is, you don't work on the rigs. You don't work in the storage facilities. What the oil companies tell you, that's what you work with. And my information grant said, when a team from SML echo to one of the production sites of these oil companies, one of their meters was dysfunctional. And if you meter in how do you even calculate the volumes of hydrocarbons you produced? Now, so BT baby or there are no leakages. Meanwhile, you are not an oil company. You've not done any research to show say there are no leakages. Would the answer we organization now? Sabi, and you expect that to constitute the law. So if government is losing revenue, we should rely on your word to say that there are no leakages in the upstream. Which and start stolen crude now make no. A free hin ever. Sabi, even if I'm not an expert, minim said sometimes people sell stolen crude on the high seas. Free hin ever. Apart from near Paris area, no, there are answer Paris baby and cry. Say nipa ni the call answer ya what you here? And sometimes Ghana. I said to you,
Mate, I think also so bad
to
just a minute.
Yes. Say the goma for a taboo or mu baby say. So in your cromfo. Na ye pie cromfo with jum now ujania coin. And he said, Muslim who saw she like as far as the oil companies go, or Munye Bonibia, they are declaring the right volumes and that there are no discrepancies between storage and production. Now, Aban say, okay, we want to assure ourselves. This is a revenue assurance mechanism. No, we want to assure ourselves, say, Sikana say, and one a Ejima Ghana for more how ne saying. And I would expect Ghana for you know, would support any revenue assurance monitoring mechanism in the upstream. Maybe if you have issues with SML, discuss
the issues.
The issue. Oh, your fee said they don't have the technical capacity to do that. Then we are having a fair conversation. We are having, but to say a whole leakage is in your here revenue assurance. Let's just say, do I also want Ghana money dear Akakra.
Mate, Mammy has said Dr. Benjamin Ochiran, they knock a cran. I say on dear. We see a article name on dear. Eja, Kokrokoo fireman. Dr. Angra.
Oh, yes, me.
But there's a boo, so best starting. Doc, but I never know me plate in Sunday, and I said, Ocean pay.
From back when I'm the me in Waka.
Aha, who you are? We are here now, Befa.
And I'm in Kaka for SML.
Okay.
Ghana, yeah, problem, Cassia back on the say. You see, Casamunya. So, you see, Casamunya, and he said, O mine sika no say befi baabi na aba na ye trase hu say sika no ne yesese ba nya nyina na eba na ebi enwunu fa baabi na asoman ye se ebehwe ne yetu ho na mo a meme de amini ho asem ka na sane atiki kan yi niama ne pia na matro ha meka no waka ntia ho hia say sabi ye be ha nia otie no ye be san kan asem kro na to begin with say ade no so mo ye na ye benya so mfa so a ye betumi agi atom ekwan be na ye fa so a ye de adwuma no ma om eye mra kwan so ananya mra kwan so say ye mra kwan so a ye misa say nya mra kwan so a let's ask relevant questions omo ba ye no between time a omo ba ye ne no then omo tumi aye ana say ekosi time ye ka so omo nya adwuma no amfanto no then omo tumi aye let's get a report. So ampa yesi se wa some da wanim te GRA na ye de oman tumi ahye ne nsa se ohwe no nye oman sika mae GRA say ye the systems and mechanisms to ho sene ye be ya oman sika etumi enwunu enko ankurankuro bia ho na se GRA ya ada na ye nya omo no omo nya adwuma ne yesese omo ye ema oman no enti meme de tietietia so omo ye adwuma no mo bo man no ama yesika no nyanke benwunu enya nwunu a let's allow them to work. There are only few things I'm asking. Ye the kwan papa na fa so the contract ma omo omba has there been an impact so ampa say company no empo I say oh experience na na say sabi ye movie nya say ye wo ye na already wo ye fie kakra then you grow in the profession and I say e wa adwuma na wo ye nim so enti say omo properly registered company na say emra kwan mu no ye mom kwan no betumi aye and over a period no betumi aye no maye ni ya why not let's give them a chance but say bibi wo also na ye ntiase a ye misa etada na ye pere ye ho koka asem bi eto obi so ana adwumakuo bi so ansa na woni beba ho so a ebenya asem no mu nokore no sabi ni awo kana otiye no ebia no wa meti emu nokore na beba ekiri nti let's be circumspect say omanpani say ni aye kan wate allegations aba yenya hwehwemu nti omo ye mu hwehwemu wie na ye de aba beto sabi ni omo ye no bibi enkoyie ekochew nti adwuma de mo munjai na mo munjai oh mega say no it's only been suspended it's not been cancelled. Nti say report no ba na esi adwuma na omo ye no na oman no benya so mfa so omo nkoto aso na oman no yenya ne esese yenya
But just an addition, I think say GRA4 is an agency omuye adwuma ma aban na mampenyi e were representatives on the board, the governing board of GRA. My advice to GRA is say even though they made a request to the president say omuma SML fund to omuye adwuma so the president didn't hit the request. I think they need to go back to the president again, because I said it here last week. Say, what if we are losing revenue, all right, because of the suspension of Ejumana Omoyeno? How do we ever come back from that? And the ABA, there could be this gentlemanly arrangement, say, okay, Munkosu Nyemo Ejuma, but between the timer Mubeye Ejumano, Kopim timer KPMG reporting Bebano, this is the caveat. Say if there are adverse findings against you, that would result in the termination of my contract now. Abaying into your mokapre. But if it appears say and if it turns out say Jumana na mu ye no Juma na ebua and KPMG findings no exonerate mu, government will continue to pay you for the work that you've been doing. I think that would be more reasonable than say ye twemu Juma no na Jumana. Yeah, exactly. Because if you have that gentlemanly agreement, and I'm sure they must be reasonable to that arrangement. Mika is a phone. Say munko sunye mu Juma no. But the caveat is that if it turns out say there are recommendations against you na Juma na enya de mbeto aso dia aban entua mu kapre. But if it turns out say e ade mbeto aso for the work that you've done between the period that KPMG was doing on Juma no ye beko so etua depending on what you've been able to do, whether you were able to, find discrepancies and get gains for GRA and so on. But sana now it turns out Juma Omuyano Ebwa, and that between the time you suspended them, no people are man for a chifa so it would have been revenue lost, and I'm not sure there'll be a way to recover from that. Anti board no go back to the president with this requisition.
Maybe president Krabe Pnese or Monko. Sometimes you just want to be careful. No, be angoka say. Also can be inti. Say okay, yeah, near maybe entiasia into order they should suspend the activities. But at the time of my suspend GRA, then all year, say the leakages na no more anka suspect no. See, it's a problem. There's a reason why institutions will want to do outsourcing. Yeah. Say obi or expertise. And I say one case our weakness be now to me now be mo bia ya mawa. Those things are there. You bet me am here ni akọ. But GRA mamon tenase entwen ya kopimia report no beba. As I say, you have to look at other alternatives. Say want to me nyani nyina mpo a. Baby kakra bi a obeya bema se nka se bibi be koso na e bone kra obetumi ate so. Omonfa omani nko. Na now 2024. You better aba. The last time I was here, I can say at least when I checked, almost 40 countries and about elections. Election is a process, not an event. Stakeholder engagement. NDC IPAC. It's a good thing to hear. And ye be nokre. Say in their discussion, omoji tum say beto abano November, yen shas year 2028. Nokra na mina mini hobby. This is what we are hearing. Unfortunately, no, omoko IPAC na I had to say, secret group, no market to Weber or can say, we also can say, how do we get the truth of what happened there, what transpired? It is ne papa moi electoral commission. And now there, just so you'll be seen to be neutral. Or the encoba be akofa daily graphic no. Now for moko, let them give us proper report. Now at least we can appreciate the spirit behind whatever decision that you take there.
No, usually there is press presence.
Omo tina meeting him. Well, enti na say yankasa so yes an shemra say Ghana for omo wo amanono nke be mo kwan mo mato aba meboa.
Rupa
omoto aban omashase to omonto enti ma yem pray ho nye yemra na se yemra ne keke ye dia yemfa nya adwuma because Ghana ni bi ti ba bi oye adwuma no pai obi pese wote ne ekoso Ghana ahomate o in some countries no afena say about 10 or ha afena about 5 or ba bi 4 o'clock wa sorry tie Peace FM so pese wote ne ekoso Ghana ono yesi ye ntua to a otua bi na say nipa nyina o mamma yesi ye to abaya mo to bi say ayi kura ye wo other countries are more reps wo ha o ye to aba Americans wo ha nyina mfo plane na nkwa abrochire nkwa to aba omo tena kurom ha omo tena mamu eto aba ne bi enti emra na ya hyehyɛ agu ono ekwan be ne ye fa so a ye be ma na ye adwuma na for me sanka yes Sunday ba November anka ye say uti argument ni nyina ye niam ni bi wo ha say nsi ya wonhu esomfa so anase wo ni ehia be hia say ye be sesamra na ye to there was a point in time on mamu ye to abanam prensa ya to ha ni nyina na emre ne ko the time for transition became very short ebanisa na emwaye Now other countries, there are a lot of it. Nigeria, almost about how long and some of my handing over. So other countries, what is the best practice? America. What to about November or say October? The time on be hand over. And see, bet me a yamana. There's nothing wrong. Say, niobe winning na now. Niobe winning. Niobe lose no. Oya den obe lose.
But there are pros and cons.
So
this idea, what is the problem with the December win? Because now we have a transition act. Until a guided transition. So if that's the concern, vote in November. Between November and January, the damage that one irate president beat me across, we have no idea.
No, but until now, a man also say, say President B, able to me, I and say, anti other countries, almost so say a 2 abandoned tema, a movie crime, and Sabi, Odi, and say Hunu and Anaze, Odi Boniana. Let's look at it. Then, Ebia and Faswa, Ebiano Bedor soon. For us to hold the election early, since say a better unim oh say yankasa no election end senia ya nya adeti ewi ase be say yo nti senia ye so aggressive na ye koto aba me no te hasisi atik ya me pangu I won't do it anyway but say me bia man ka say wo atik me nya ba bia me bua prepraw no matter our disagreement ofi say tesa no police for omote asemi o medin ana say IGP oti obedin ana me man kofo bua prepraw nti IGP obedin na ko ba ne say na somebody of a stature in society, a member of parliament, a minister, and for that matter cabinet minister etumi gina simpie so nipam our police commanders mienu miensa gina ne nchen na okase enipa bi akobo me supporters
why am na okay on to
ya mo trense me ba this diesel engine so
unfortunately we only miles san or be hiti
Mr. na minister cabinet minister KT Hammond asem na mekan so ono say oba organize na oma buo bi to pop ona ya obo with translation a kire mma me say okanya kan say wo bodyguard am no wonam wo AK-47 o ba no and one fair no one man na the etuo kitwa we buy Jesus Christ and civil society obi anka ho he menti say party mpani dia menti say omuba kokura. See this man who came here, the chairman, such a noble man, right? What's his name? Party chairman, 17. I mean, no better. Such a noble man. Me sure say, as my KT Hammond kind until party penny bianca away. IGP Omaka. Have they said something? No, but that's for another day. Me can say small boy be and I say a branch be na kokan asemi ya ofi senti ebe kebe jan say yan ne tra sakeke a minister who sits in cabinet say ono any party for not outsiders so na yemi ya no not outsiders not the supposed enemies now to me ka say anko also the AK-47 nko the ba or the be dey o de be kunuma nti na wo de unima you spit venom KT Hammond. Are you not ashamed of yourself, say? And cannot pay? No.
No, I'm not saying don't say, but
it cannot pay. Meba. Over Saka James said,
now, but Trinity, the mechanic common yebi. As some of come and cast me, you but the mechanic say, Tobo, Boko,
Mate. And Tisanka or the Najuma to her. He needs to resign. He has to resign, and he must resign. KT Hammond. Say what to me ko gina simpie so nipam a ye record and unim ne hem won apa or kanya ka say commander or refer to the commander standing by say me organize me yakobun susu ampa say nipa no ne odi kan ye na wo say enye no ono am ya bo nkofo nti ya de papa say wo minister gina bonten kasa say nsem o kan de mu ye du say ye betumi aye hwan masa say me ada ho keke. Say minister no kase who I send the AK-47 and when am yam shame AK-47 called the baby what thing say obemi abunk of one a preprom and can pay and can Monday anopa or assembly Saturday or send police here to me invite no na ye nyai sa ne me sebi nsehuni ne bejama ne to me according isem ekoya ne opedia We are not building a nation. No. When you banana republic, say nia upa na ubeye. Say you have to me kakra ye di amano. O de be this insenhunu aka say be me abu obi. Na o kan aka say baby obi a onwane onfi krom ha. Come on. Onfi krom ha say asokwa no sebe una achichere ye wo dia. O man wo dia will you determine where somebody should stay? You should be ashamed of yourself as a minister. Why you MP over 20 years and someone to me can and he said nia unima say wo dia baby abedu bia and tokwasem and why don't you learn from your colleagues who are also ministers? There are cool-headed people around you. Learn from them, please.
Sometimes you need to.
This is January. This is January. He
profits from what he does.
But it is wrong.
What is
this?
They don't see say wrong.
We have
coconut heads.
That very moment, he was just insulting people. Now, what are the youth learning from you?
Not much.
Me say party penny as so mo frɛ no no mo twena so. The national security must see this as a threat. Ye nya ma ne nkɔ keke. Na say on resign ni anka me be kan to as anka president o yinadi. Be say president o yinadi. President o nim how to sack. I'm very surprised say at this point civil society when national peace council omo nyina ti asema pani kan yi obia emfa no ho. It's a shame. Now you say then emissions levy na only say petrol ayeto your pollution levy edaso you see electric car no o man mu ye nse da ni dodo ye the bus are brand new nipa he ne betumi ato etena dia you say oh let's think outside the box, let's think globally, but you act locally. You think globally, you act locally. It is you see yankoto a year electric car ye nyina say nipa 1000 and na no pay you see yakoto bi ebenya bi ato hwe be a charging ports no dodo sen na conscious effort to ye ne kakra oh udu ha obetua ye betua ye kra ma wo fie wo da wa charge ka de tia wo de akwa na say ye so sori na pa na the working hours ni bi charge na ye boni ye say ye den ye use fossil fuel enti e no ye tua o petroleum so ansa na wo ko renew vehicle so a eno so wasan kotua
doc we dear
so
just quickly. Well,
you disagree. We can't always agree on that. I have no problem with that.
One say if you are a party to the Paris Convention and a Paris Agreement, there is every year you're supposed to submit what they call NDC, nationally determined contributions. Then we are in your own country towards the mitigation of climate change effects. So what are your climate change
efforts? Or they have to petrol so did that?
No. One would say no is is on petroleum, but at the end of the day, this transition, green transition, I said ports now Uko USA free in supermarkets. Nti ebia abaya adwene say ansana yebema EVs na aba we should also have such ports. How do you get the money to do that? Nti media say enu ena ya adwene na say it is indeed about our green transition because you are supposed to tell your colleagues in the who are parties to the agreement say ebua the climate change efforts and one of it is policy. So if you are saying say let's have emission taxes first, it will not discourage person, but what shall say towards the green transition. Say media I won't disagree. But if it is just another way of raising tax to do other things, that is where I have a difficulty because this country there is a tendency.
Jessica, several funds, including health insurance. Sika SS Yajeno, any the car part also. Saying you be release yama agency nom dia yajuma. Enti yan hwe ne ye ne be tan say obia ye kɔ na omaka. Niema na omo kase ye nkonko ye. Say to da obi om to kase ye provide subsidies me boa. America om provide. Enti yan hwe ne ya ye oman yi mu a ebe boaye. Ye say ye kwa na bibia na omka ne age atum ne ye ba beye. Ahokyere ede beba. What is say GPI to for ashase. Say omo nkutua say sika no they would transfer that cost to the ordinary person who will now go and board. Etada ya mmara no kura yankasa no mmara na emfa ye ho. Omo ombeji atum no, ometua bi. Government vehicle no ontua ayo, ontua road adi o. Ni ono oji atum no ontua bi. Petrol ya ye tua ho tax ni ade no, ontua bi o.
So carbon tax and emission tax. I think
drivers are omo twi taxi any trotro ya kire ma kire wom. Ya no omo edi hu nkoma
well, that's another problem.
Anyway, doc.
Nana, what time is one?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
No, just on this emission,
two minutes in here.
No, just to say, we need as a country to intensify our climate efforts and our climate change efforts. No, as I say, let's say, or sure, if we are airborne, it's just abnormal. And it shows that this phenomenon is real. Yeah. And as Kokrokoo, say, bread. And Rasino, we decided to become a party to the Paris Agreement, and there are some obligations on us. Until every year, Biano, I say near year locally to deal with it, and start emission taxi. Like I said, as we should find a way to monitor the collection of Sasikan. Juma Omodi.
Finance Ministry. They no more catch the Ghana for answer on the tax. How did they educate us on this?
That's a fair point. I agree. There should have been some enough
finance ministry, more a PR or more way or more way,
and even Ministry for Environment.
I mean, what are they doing about it?
They ought to have been part of this.
I think I've got to go.
Oh, Doc, a sound yet here. Omega say, "Oh, move for VAT, move for Asham to oh, start collecting the money." Empty new class some no can on tia say, "Yen ko bisa o mo mo say mrano."
Yo, ya say. Dog, why, Madam Wasi? Unfortunately, I don't have overstayed offense and levy. And me can say, my birthday, no, me person me top books, any pencils, pen, eraser, crayons, any other. Every common schools are a woman crew, ever half of my hammy. Na Ghana for mo ma doye pa mumu bebre ho a mo se mame mumudin, and I don't want to breach that trust and confidence. But more en ha mo se mebomudin no pamcho mama get through the queer mo Frimpong, Mr. Thomas Frimpong or Connecticut, afi Dr. Mabel Otibu Edi, Nana Opare Kwafo, afi Ambassador Opata aka Papti, Dr. James Kwabrabon Fe Jr., Nana Kobo, Nana Adepa Amponsa Yeboa, Honorable Echo Vincent Asifua, Dr. Srebo Kweku, Professor William Bamboating, and Afi Mary Benedict Abuaku, Mount Type Publishing, Mowo Kutubabi Police Station, Echiho, Modia Momo Bremi Books, is some way publishing company to Bremi Books. Mame Dora Mankwa, Miamase Dora Mankwa, aka Indomie Special. Honorable Alexander Kojukum Aban. And me dawasipa afi Chief Inspector Richard Amwa. Miami nua Badenta Beyonce Kozi Akusia Menu. Afi Honorable Boache Ejako. Miami Brapeni ACP Amenin. Mami Adjoa Open and Close. Mikom Nia Hafuni. Augustine Ousukufo. Afi Mr. Stephen Boafo. And Honorable Clement Opoku Jemfi, I at a friend CID. And pay me by Juma, or penny be a fan of Felix or Henny, on so I send him Miska, Pachominim, Felix or Henny Numponenso, or send him Miska. More must send him Miska, more Dawson, pa, and so. Kakre pe and a mutumia makes me a bumudin. Mamma Camo say Emma Mumudino, Medamunina say, Ubia and Ra, or Frey Mammy Trinqua. Ma sorry. Holy Trinity Catholic Church Sapema Opa, my software Reverend Father Raymond Lord Ampon, AD me CPC for any baha, Ebre me cake, in your cake, no bo home pie, and I movie Musan Shira me can home, Madame Wasipa, Yamin Shiramo, Minu no ma software, Papa no ma software, Mobom pie ma me, one must send me message. My colleagues, especially colleagues, are a work media fraternity ha, Enoch in Shrado. Francis Aban, Umaru Sanda, any team Amo City FM, Obi, Miaminia Obi, any Minia Penny or my Hene Kwabina Sante, Countryman Songo, Wendy, Pokuya Wendy 101, Equia Boachue Yadom, any colleagues are more multimedia group, Madame Wasepa, Afe Minian Moa, Ewukumasi, Osayakutu Kanu, Spelele, ene mwaka nyina Afe Oheneba Siedu, Madame Wase, Yamin Shiramu nyina, Roman Father, Penny radio presenter, Oye Juma, 2 radio stations at the same time. A record, they been see that Roman Father, Medase, Afe Minia Sadiq Adams, the sports Obama, and a Kwajo Dixon, a more angel group. Minianum, I must send them messages, more friend, more wish, more platforms soon, Medamase. MFA Apple, MFA Crafting, Kona, we want her a big guy. Was also made over me and Chenema Chavi. MFA Medaswati, I mean, Shnamunina, Ubia, I'll send him a message. Said I'm a kind message in the Muguso, I responded by Gakranka, a bidro the Anasona, my responding in Medobia, Yanko Shnamunina. Me colleagues, I mean, what despite media fear her, when there's my namasia. Na Ankuyi, me am a boss, Ghana's Morning Voice, Chairman General, Kwame Sefakine, Team Kokrokoo. Team newsroom, Madam Munina, Yamin Shramunina, Kofi Combes and the Royal Baby, and now chair me time, and then was a chimbiaka home, Madam Wasi, Yamin Shramunina, Madam Wasipa. Nemo most importantly, me yere of 4, Evia Danzo, Evia, one a Busianina, Madam Wasi. And from an eye, Cassie, obey me from the Cardinal, Mede Radiasundie, Ejamunina, Macram.
He is not good for you. Man, I get me photo. I get me photo. We need be more about. Jaina Kekano. The piano be so. I want to know. Maria Teresa, UTV telenovela for Fraya Kofaba. Maria Teresa, eya baba wa hu ofefo. Nimdifo ya wo the bra e wo prokese mu. Na so akwa akwa wie se wo papa akwa da fiase.